Good afternoon. Uh, can you all hear me in the back? Okay, just so I can get a sense of the crowd. Are you all from engineering, marketing, management, or should I ask? Engineering. Everyone's from engineering? Great. I'm from marketing. Okay. Uh, so today we are going to talk about an interesting topic, something that is very, very close to me and the work that I do. A lot of the work that I do is in messaging. I spend a lot of time with words, breaking down what they mean. And this is irrelevant of language. Obviously, I am delivering today in English, but what do words mean? In my study, we call it lexicon, right? How do we create messages that can get people to understand what we are trying to say, that can get people to make actions, that can get people to really connect with what we are trying to do? Ever since I was a child, this is very weird that I got into communications. Ever since I was in school, I was the person who had very little friends, who spoke very little, and I was essentially, I am and was an introvert. And I had a tough time making friends because I really cannot make, matlab, I really cannot make stupid conversation. If I have something to say, I will say it, right? And so the advantage of that was I observed everybody in the way that they communicated. And a person who has no friends has one friend, the TV. I learned a lot about communication, about relationships from watching TV. I learned from watching shows like Full House, maybe not in your generation, but I learned how people react. I learned how people react when they're in a relationship. I learned how people react when something bad happens, if somebody passes away. I didn't learn this in life, I learned this on TV. But through my observations, I also grew a strong love to messaging and communications and what it all really stands for. And what I want to tell all of you today as engineers is that today, the world, to a large part, is a level playing field. There's accessibility to skills, there's accessibility to learning. You can have all the knowledge that you want. You can go on Google right now and search whatever you want, right? Our access is at our fingertips. So, what's going to set you apart when you leave this institute and you start working? Is it only going to be talent and skills? Or is it also going to be all the small things that you do right? Your attitude, the way you dress, the way you speak, the words that you use. And you'll find it amazing that one of the biggest, and I have a lot of IT clients, and maybe this Josh team will also agree with me, that one of the biggest concerns that IT leaders have about their team is, yaar, mera team communicate nahi kar sakta. They don't know how to communicate only. They don't know how to say what they want to say. They don't know how to resonate what they feel, right? And so today we are going to talk about the other side. Everybody knows that messaging is good and that if you communicate well, it will mean good things for you. So I thought that agar main yahi bola to aap bore ho jayenge. So I'll talk about how messaging can be bad. I'll talk about one element of messaging. Any message that you give to anybody. And by the way, everything is communicating. The way you're sitting, the way you dress, what you say. As I walked into this campus, everything in this campus was communicating. The first thing that Shraddha said to me is, such a beautiful campus. Campus was communicating. I love the way this auditorium is set up. I love the name of this auditorium and what it stands for. I hope you've seen it in so many years. It's outside. But you have to be observant and you have to read and you have to see what people and things and places are trying to communicate to you. Today, we also live in a time of social media. Everything is on digital. Every time you do anything, you're going to put it on digital, you're going to put it on Twitter, you're going to put it on Instagram, which means our lives are under CCTV cameras all the time. Everything is being seen, right? And in this situation, we have to be extra careful of what words we are using, what they mean, and what it could stand for. And of course, words can create possibilities, but we have to be more careful when words can create consequences. So I want to show you some examples. And before I start, have any of you ever gotten in trouble for saying something wrong? You can raise your hand. कुछ गलत बोले कभी गलती से? Nobody's ever said anything wrong. 1 second. So first rule of me giving this presentation is that मैं आपको मेरे बारे में सच बता रहा हूँ, आप भी सच बताओ, right? Has anybody gotten in trouble for saying the wrong thing? Ever, right? You face the consequences of saying the wrong thing in class, to a girl, to a guy, to your girlfriend, to your mother, right? And so everything that you're saying has consequences. But you know what? Until today, the consequences were one to one, one to many. Today, the consequences are to the whole world. Because what you're saying, you're putting on digital, right? So let's see what these consequences could be. And I'm going to give you 3 or 4 tips that you should remember every time that you're communicating. And these tips, I hope, apart from all the technical language, technical knowledge that you have, are really going to help you. And pay attention to these tips, because I can guarantee you, I'm a CEO myself and I talk to many clients. If you can get communication right, it can be your biggest superpower. It can be your ticket to whatever you want to achieve in your life, because I know that all of you will work hard to understand the skills of your craft. But if you cannot communicate your craft, it means very little. This lady tweeted this. I'll let you read it. And she was the head of communications of a large company called IAC. And before she got on a flight to Africa, she was going there for, weirdly, a social visit. She was going there for, and before she got on the flight, she says, going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, just kidding, I'm white. Any problem with that? All good? Okay. White people don't get AIDS, right? The problem with this tweet is she tweeted this out. She got on the flight. Her friend started messaging her, ki ye kya tweet kiya? Take it down. She didn't see it. She was on the flight. 6 hours later or 8 hours later, she lands in Africa. This tweet is trending #1 in the world. And she is, at that point of time, the most hated person in the world for saying this. Right? This is just stupid. You shouldn't have said it. I want to ask her, or if I could ask her, I would ask her, what was going through your mind when you say something like this? And probably, she's probably saying, I did it to be funny. Well, today, we live in a much different society. It's not funny, right? Things that you could say 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you really cannot get away with saying today. How many of you guys know the musician, the rapper? How many of you guys know Eminem? You heard his music? You think today if he came out, he wouldn't get his ass kicked? It's not going to work, right? It worked when I was in high school. He was #1. Everybody wanted to hear him, right? We used to beg our parents to go and, I mean, I lived in the US, but we used to beg our parents to go and get his CD, and because we needed a parent, because it was 18 and above to get a CD, right? So the point is that, sorry, I said CD. I know there's no CDs around anymore. But yeah, but the point is the things that he said made sense and were okay then are absolutely not okay today, because the society's changed. We become much more sensitive. Whether you agree, don't agree, like, don't like, this is the society that you're going to work in. This is the society that we currently live in, right? We play by the rules of what's around us. And she obviously wasn't playing by the rules of what's around her. She lost her job. For 2 years, nobody hired her. After that, weirdly, she got a job with Match.com, which is a parent company of Tinder. They were okay with it. I'm not going to name the politician. This is an Indian politician who said this. Sometimes we say things with good intent or with the right type of intent. But he says, even if a person is rich, he has to go to the bathroom on the streets. This is a commentary on India, and this is a politician trying to make a claim saying that our sanitization and public toilets are horrible. That's what he's trying to say. Okay, it's a he. That's what he's trying to say. But does that mean that when he says even if a person's rich, he would have to go? Is that not the wrong type of thing saying to the poor? That means the poor can go on the streets, but if a rich has to go, then it's a problem, right? People are reading into words, people are reading into structure, and you must take this seriously, because this is a quote in the newspaper. This happened in 2010 tens. If it would have happened today, it would have been on Twitter, and there would have been a lot more chaos for what he said. This is an example where the intention to create or bring up an issue in society is there. It's good intention. Wrong structure, wrong way to say it. Okay, I mean, I don't have to say that this is wrong, but this is wrong, right? Women wearing lipstick and powder should be careful as it attracts men. Okay, interesting. You know what makes it even more interesting? This happened in response to why are there so many rapes happening in your city? That's my answer, right? And the person remained in power. Nobody did anything about it. Because at that time, politician, he got away with it. Today, wouldn't have gotten away with it. We live in a different time, right? So when we are answering something, we may want to answer with a little bit more thought, a little bit more meaning. And I want you guys to pay attention to every single conversation that you have with everybody, your faculty, your the people who come for placements, like the organizations which come for placements. And this is even more important when you get into a job. Because in a large company, which most of you will probably join, I was looking at some of your places that you may get placed because I saw the logos out there. These are all large companies, right? Saying one thing, companies at times are worse than colleges. Word gets around very quickly of what you said. And so, for that matter, for you to ensure that your own perception to the people that you work with, to the organization that you work with, to the career you're trying to build is not hampered by saying something stupid, by not thinking through what you're saying, or saying something with good intention but saying it the wrong way. Another very unintentional thing that someone said, and this is a brand, this is Adidas sending an email to every Boston Marathon finisher. Boston Marathon is a big marathon that happens in the US, and Adidas was the main sponsor. So as you finished the marathon, you got an email from them which said, congratulations, you survived the Boston Marathon. Kuch problem hai? You guys would be okay with this? You guys would be okay with it, right? Now I'll tell you the context. Just 2 years before, Boston Marathon mein bombing hua tha. Now it changes the context. When I say you survived, it changes the way you look at this now. What do you mean you survived? Obviously, Adidas didn't mean that. Adidas meant that Boston Marathon is a grueling marathon. You survived. Good job. Congratulations. But the context changes everything. Adidas had to issue a public apology for this mail that they put in. And again, read the room. Pay attention to what is happening in the world. Read the newspaper. If you don't get the newspaper, read Twitter. Right now, it's probably the best newspaper you have, unfortunately. Right? But know what's happening in the world. Because I think a lot of times we say things because we are unaware of what's happening in the world. And we don't know that what we are saying actually means much more than what we feel it is talking about. Even if a brand like this with, I mean, I know Joe Software has 20, 30 people in their marketing team. Imagine Adidas, how many people they have in their marketing team. Nobody noticed. Everybody was completely unaware and they were okay with sending this email out, right? We have to be careful of how we communicate. This means the emails that you write to each other, the emails that you write to your companies, emails that you write to your colleagues when you're at work. Be careful of the words that you use, right? And you may find that what I'm saying is it really that important? It's just a word, it's just an email. Karke dekho. Make a mistake on purpose, see what happens. Just a word. Just a word that you feel, I shouldn't write, I'm going to just write it so I can tell this fool who came and spoke to us that it doesn't mean anything. Do it. If you're willing to take the risk, take it. Because today, words are powerful. And what words you use can definitely dictate your success. More so, they can definitely lead you to failure if you say the wrong things. This is by far, to me, the most arrogant CEO I've ever read about in my life. BP is an oil company. If you've heard, you may not have heard, so I'll tell you. There's something called Deepwater Horizon, which is an oil spill that happened in the Pacific, and this was a major crisis for BP. Okay? This is what the CEO had to say. That he said that the ocean is very big. Oil to bahut kam gir raha hai. Are you serious? Like, this is what he's saying. That when there is an oil spill happening, this is what he says. Second, he says, we are only responsible for the oil. We weren't responsible for the carrier carrying it. You know what this led to? Downstream and upstream sustainability rules that are there today. Saying you're also responsible for the people who carry your products, not just the product itself. Right? And thirdly, essentially just completely negating the fact that he or BP is responsible. By the way, BP at this point of time was the most valuable company in the world, which means they had the most amount of money, they have made the most revenue. And this is the CEO of that company. He's essentially the person who's the benchmark of corporate, global corporate. He's the CEO of the biggest company in the world saying this. And it's just not words. But imagine in the same ocean, where on one side, his own oil is being spilled, still spilling, and they have not closed it. He goes on this yacht and attends a party. And not only that, because it's a French yacht and he's French, and he says, this is a great day for France, and he's enjoying himself. And there are pictures of him, there's images of him actually having fun and talking to people, etc., when there is a huge catastrophe that's happening. Obviously, this is a very insensitive thing to do. And as a CEO, this is something that you have to be very careful of. But this is not just limiting to CEOs. Today, because of Instagram and because of Snapchat and everything that you guys use, all of your images are online. Be careful of what you're putting online. Be careful of how these things will matter. If you feel that when you get a job, when you meet somebody new, like if I met one of you, that you're not going to check my Instagram or my LinkedIn or my Twitter to know more about me, you're wrong. If you believe that your next girlfriend, boyfriend is not going to check out your Instagram to know more about you, you're wrong. If you believe your next, not only husband or wife or whatever partner you choose, but their families are also going to check out your social media to know more about you, you're wrong. Everything that you've put up is there. Because the weird thing about social media is we change, but the images remain. Because if you scroll down to my Facebook 10 years ago, you may find some things that are slightly sensitive that maybe I shouldn't have done. I was young, right? But they're there, I cannot change. I mean, I could change it. I could go and delete it, but nobody does that, right? So we have to be careful about the public perception that we are creating. Because this used to only be restricted to actors, sports people, politicians, etc. But today we are all public figures for the fact that we are all publicly available on social media. And for that, all of you must recognize it and be careful of what we are putting up. Airbnb, they put out this advertisement. Again, unintentional. Nothing wrong with the advertisement. They're talking about floating world. It says how to spend a day or an entire trip without touching dry land. Your next aquatic adventure starts here. Good ad. Interesting house. I'll consider it. But again, context. What is happening around the world when you said this? This was an emailer that went to all Airbnb customers at the time of a hurricane that had just hit Texas. The name of the hurricane was Hurricane Harvey. 103 people had just died, $51 billion worth of damage. And their emailer, as people opened it up, said floating world. Completely unintentional. Airbnb did not know that this, I mean, somebody did not know that this is happening, right? But just like law, not knowing is not an excuse. You need to know. Today, all information is available for all of us. We need to be aware of what is happening, and we need to be careful with the words that we are choosing. So, like I've been saying, words are powerful, and they can create possibilities for you. They can really unlock possibilities for you, or they can create consequences. This is somebody who's an introvert who never, and I always had a problem speaking. Forget speaking on these type of stages, but I had a problem speaking to normal people. My parents would invite somebody at home, and I used to go into my room alone. ऐसा था. Like and my mother used to be like that. Unka son, their son is your age, so why don't you play? I don't want to play. मैं अंदर जाके TV देखता. I was that type of person. I was very, very uncomfortable talking to anybody, and I didn't know how to handle myself in social situations. But I'll tell you one thing: the day I embraced communication, the day I started putting my fear aside and speaking to people, interacting with people, it completely changed my life. And I use the same words to not only create possibilities but also create my company, which I run today. And it's coming from me, of somebody who was always very uncomfortable speaking, uncomfortable with words, uncomfortable with communication, that if I can do it, I am sure all of you can do it. Because when I was in school, I met very few people like me. Everybody else was an extrovert, right? Just be careful with what you're saying and articulation. And I heard this somewhere on a video. When you're speaking, right, don't turn off your brain and speak. It's not a very good idea. You've ever been in water, like when you're trying to feel, let's say there's big stones there, and I heard this on a video, right? How we try to feel the stones as we go. We cannot see them, but we are feeling them with our feet as we go, because we don't know which is going to be a sharp stone or a smooth stone, right? And as slowly we are trying to go. Speak like that. Speak like that. Think about every word that you're using. And I'm telling you, you'll thank me later for what I'm telling you, because it may sound a little unobvious right now to all of you in this particular time in your life. Think about every word that you're saying, and think about that, does this word that I'm going to use, or is this sentence I'm going to use, is it going to create a possibility for me, or is it going to create a consequence for me? And you'll end up saying all the right things. And by saying all the right things, you'll get all the right opportunities, and you'll create possibilities for yourself that you never thought possible. This is my guarantee. And all because you thought of what words to use instead of turning off your brain when you speak. So make articulation your superpower. I know this for a fact. If you're able to present yourself well, if you're able to talk about things well, which also means you need to know, right? You need to read. But if you're able to speak about things, it's also very important. And my last point here is, articulation is one thing, right? But don't just repeat what you're seeing in the news, and don't just repeat what you're seeing in theory. It's not a viva. Life is not a viva. Life has a point of view. Agree with things, disagree with things, and be able to articulate why you disagree and agree with things. This is what today's corporates, this is what today's society is wanting. It's wanting people who have a point of view. And if you have a point of view on whether you're doing computer engineering or whatever type of engineering, if you have a point of view on technology, if you have a point of view on what's good, what's bad, what's worse, and if you can articulate that point of view extremely well, and you have average amount of skills, you are going to go far in any IT company, right? But imagine a person who doesn't have a point of view, who cannot speak, but who's really good technically at their job. I cannot make the same commitment that they'll go as far as they could. So communications really is the cherry that is going to kind of take you there. It's something that's going to tip the scales in your favor. And so what I wanted to talk to you guys today, by showing you some consequences of message, is to say that messages can also be possibilities. Make articulation your superpower. I used to stand in front of the mirror and speak for hours. I used to speak very fast, and I couldn't, you wouldn't understand what I was saying 5-10 years ago. And so somebody told me, put a pencil in your teeth and speak. And so my first job out of college was into sales. And I was supposed to talk about, I was selling I joined a media company, but I was in sales. And every night, almost 10 to 15 times in front of the mirror, I used to have a pencil that I used to hold in my teeth and say the entire pitch of the company again to myself in front of the mirror. I got so good at it, you could literally wake me up at 3 in the morning and I could sell you this company. It was like it became immersed in me. But one of the things that practice helped me with is, one, being comfortable with the way I am. I also saw my non-verbal behavior when I was looking in the mirror. I also saw how I was communicating. My communication got slower. I started becoming more articulate. Started using all of my tongue to speak so that you can understand what I am saying. And I started reading, which gave me a point of view. I started believing that when I have a feeling about something, I want to go and talk about it, and I want to articulate it. And that, like I said, from there, of me as joining as a sales associate in an organization, to becoming the head of that operations, the youngest one in the industry. I was 23 when I was leading a team of 80 people. I grew in that organization 4 designations, from sales associate to head of operations west, within 10 months. All I could do was speak well. That's it. That's the secret. I had absolutely no skill other than that. Business and all, I learned on the way. I learned as we go. All I could do is I could speak. And as more and more ammunition I got, ammunition meaning vocabulary, I started reading, I started understanding, knowing about things, the better and better I got. And today, I get paid sometimes a lot of money, to help CEOs and organizations to understand what they should speak and how they should be speaking. Organizations today pay my company at times money just to tell them what are those 4 messages that the organization should be communicating for the next year. That's it. We do a lot of work. There's a lot of work, a lot of thinking, a lot of documentation. At the end of the day, ek slide jata hai, 4 sentences, and we get paid. That means you could tell me that this is stupid, I don't understand how you make money, but koi paisa de raha hai. My point in telling you this is that it's that important to organizations. It's that important to them that they are able to get this right. Which means if it's that important to them and you have that power, then you are important to them. This is logic, right? Lastly, my last question. You're engineers, so I was little, I thought you maybe marketing and all, but since you're engineers, I want to ask you, you know these 2 companies, Flipkart and Amazon? And this particular exercise that I'm going to do is talking about how subconsciously companies will communicate the vision and the purpose that the company started with. Okay? So imagine both of these companies coming on campus. All of you know how much you're worth. And let me be clear about that, by the way, right? It is very good to say that everybody wants the highest package. We are all at different levels. We know what our highest package is. So you all know your highest package in your mind. Ki mera worth kya hai, right? Imagine both of these companies give you that offer right now. Exactly, your dream offer, your perfect ideal offer. आपको सबको पुणे में रहने का है, बाहर जाने का है, यूएस में जाने का है, wherever it is, that company is giving you that offer to go there. Your most ideal offer they are giving. Both companies, similar offer. Okay. Amazon, Flipkart. Tell me with a raise your hands and tell me how many people would choose Flipkart? How many people would choose Amazon? Cool. There was nothing different. Same offer, right? Did you choose? Why did you choose Amazon? Ask yourself that. This is a different format, so I'm not able to ask you guys questions to answer. But ask yourself, what is the reason I chose Amazon? Because सब कुछ same था, पैसा same था, location same था. I would get everything. I'd get the same car, get the same girlfriend, because money also. But get the same girlfriend. Everything. I would have the same things. I would go to the same restaurants, buy the same clothes, buy the same brands, because everything was the same. I would learn the same things possibly. I would do the same type of work, job profile same है. Still, everybody in this room chose Amazon. मतलब, this is really bad for Flipkart. इसका photo आप Flipkart को भेजो. That's really sad. But you know why? Go a little bit deeper, and subconsciously, companies will communicate what they stand for. If you go on their website, and not sure if Flipkart has changed this now with Walmart, but if you go on their website, do you know when Amazon started and Jeff Bezos started this, what was his purpose of starting the company? What was the one thing that he said, we are going to be an organization about? Anyone know? You can yell it out if you know. Sorry? You have to yell it out louder so I can hear you. Okay. But that wasn't their purpose. No, that was their business, to sell books. But there was one thing which he said Amazon will never ever forget. This is one thing, it will always be centered around this one thing. You know what that is? This is what happens when I talk to engineers, because if this was a marketing class, everybody would know this answer. Okay, it is that Amazon says that everything we do, we want to be the best customer service organization in the world. He didn't say I want to sell books. I want to be the superior customer experience is something that we will do. Sell books, diapers, movies, everything we'll sell. But customer experience is what we are going to focus upon, is what he said. Okay? And I hope some of you have had that experience, but at least in their communication, their advertising, all of the subconscious messaging that they're drilling into your heads is making an impression, a perception. The words that they're choosing makes a perception in you that they are the best customer service experience organization in the world. And if they are the best customer service experience organization, they will be the best employee experience organization. And therefore, even if Flipkart offers me the exact same offer, I am going to say, I am not coming there to Bangalore. I am going to Amazon. I will go to any corner of this country but work with Amazon instead of Flipkart, given the fact that both have given the same offer. Flip side, Flipkart's vision is, I want to become the Amazon of India. Ah, that's it. That's their vision. You go on their website, it's there. Inside in their corporate pages, they say their vision is, I want to become the Amazon of India. ये limiting है ना? Correct? You are almost admitting defeat कि मैं Amazon इतना बड़ा कभी होगा नहीं, मैं Amazon का India बनूं. This is what they started with. This was their vision. This was their purpose. And it subconsciously seeps through every communication that they do without them even knowing. And it seeps all the way to you, saying, if I can join Amazon, who's supposed to be an experience company, or I can join a company who's trying to be an Amazon of one region, मैं कौन सा choose करूंगा? Simple, I'll choose Amazon. But the thing in marketing and perceptual marketing specifically is, you don't even realize this is happening to you. Otherwise, I have no idea why 100% of you would have said Amazon. It's subconsciously happening to you. Something that was done at the root of when that organization was established is playing in your mind today. And I hope with that, at least to you engineers, I have proven that words are powerful, and the sentences and the purposes that you create when you actually at the grassroots are something that is going to really unlock possibilities for Amazon or consequences for Flipkart, because I don't know where they're going to get their engineers from. Thank you so much.